Hi, grade 4 students. So this is the video solution of the worksheet that you've done this week, and we're gonna correct it and solve it together. So this way you can check your answers. So first we're going to start with question number 1. In this question we have a diagram of a flower, the drawing of the flower. This drawing is showing the different parts of a flower, and we have special terms to use in order to annotate this diagram. Okay, I'm going to start with this. This is a colorful part of the flower. So the colorful parts are the petals. So petals are the colorful parts of a flower. Okay. What about these leaf-like structures? These parts look like leaves, but actually they're called sepals. These are the sepals of the flower. Okay, let me cross these two, sepal and petal. I'm gonna cross them. We still have a stigma, filament, anther, and ovary. Okay, so I will start with the ovary. The ovary is the fat part of the flower, and it is a part of the female reproductive organ. It's the last part of the female part. This is the female part. This is it. I'll try to circle it for you. So this is the girl. The female part is made of 3 different parts. The head is called the stigma. This is a sticky head actually. Then we have a road between the stigma and this fat part down here. This is the ovary. The ovary contains the ovules that will become seeds after meeting the pollen grains. Let me cross these two. I use them. I still have 2 words, filament and anther. The male part, the stamen, has 2 parts. The anther, which is the yellow head right here, and the body holding this anther, the line holding this anther. So this arrow is pointing to the yellow head of the stamen, and this part is called the anther. This part contains the pollen grains needed to make the seeds. Flowering plants are plants that grow seeds in their flowers. So each part of a flower is so important and has its own job in this reproduction process, the seed making process. In question number 2, we have to give the name of the flower part that performs a special activity. For example, which part of the plant or of the flower protects the flower as it grows? When the flower is still young and is still a bud, there is a special part that protects it, which is the sepal. Excellent. So sepals are leaf-like structures that protect the flower when it's still young and it's still a bud. Which part of the flower contains the pollen grains? This yellow, beautiful powder needed to make seeds. The anther. Sorry for this. So the anther is the flower's part that contains the yellow pollen grain. Which part of the plant or of the flower contains the ovules, these small points, these small eggs that will become seeds after meeting the pollen grains? It's the ovary for sure. Okay, so the anther makes the pollen grains, the yellow pollen grains, and these grains must move to meet these ovules. When the pollen grains meet the ovules in the ovary, we will have seeds. Which part of the flower attracts insects, such as bees and butterflies? So to attract these pollinators or these insects, plants use their colorful, beautiful parts. These parts with beautiful smell. So plants use their petals. Okay, petals are used to attract insects and animals. Scientists gave names to each and every plant. Okay, let me fix this. Each and every plant. However, many plants still have popular names like impatient, don't touch me, everlasting, 4 o'clock. These are three names or three popular names of three flowering plants. We have to fill in the table with the popular name that goes back best with the given description. So we have three sentences describing three different flowering plants, and we have to use these three popular names to name these plants. 1. The flowers open at evening and stay so all night long. What do you think? So, evening, that means we can talk about time. So, the name 4 o'clock goes better with this description. 2. The flowers give fruits that open as soon as we touch them. So, don't touch them because the fruits will open directly. And I think this name goes with this description. Last one, and I'm going to choose the last popular name that I have. The flowers do not fade, they keep the same shape and color. So these plants are everlasting. Figure 1 shows pollination, the pollination process. So first of all, we have to match. They labeled for different things differently, and we have A, B, C, and D. A is the part that makes B. B is carried by C. C will move it to D. Okay, so I will start by naming the element B. B is the yellow powder. This is the pollen grain. So B refers to a pollen grain. Okay, so I told you that the part A holds or contains part B. Which part of the flower contains or carries the pollen grains? The Anther, that's right. So the anther, which is part A, makes or contains pollen grains. Okay? The anther, which is the head of the boy, the head of the male reproductive part, holds or contains pollen grains. These pollen grains will be taken or carried on by an animal, a pollen helper that will move it to the girl. So as you can see, part D shows the female reproductive part, which is the pistil or the carpel. This part receives the pollen grain with the help of an animal. This animal is called a pollen helper. This animal helps pollen reach the girl, and it's called a pollinator. Okay? What do we call the act of transferring or transporting pollen grains from the anther to the pistil? This is pollination. Don't forget that pollination is the act of moving pollen from the male anther to the female reproductive part, which is the carpel or the pistil. Indicate the pollinator's function. What is the pollinator's job? The bee in this case. What does the bee do? The pollinator carries or moves or transfers pollen grains from the anther to the pistil. Okay, the pollinator moves pollen grains from the boy to the girl. From the boy to the girl. Last and not least, question number 5. We have a figure in question number 5 showing the Moringa oleifera, which is a fast-growing plant with a large trunk and perfumed flowers. So this plant has a large trunk and perfumed flowers. This plant is considered as cultivated for its seeds and leaves used as vegetables. So this is a useful plant that people cultivate and use it as vegetables. The seeds and the leaves of this plant are used as vegetables. Choose the correct answer. There is one correct answer for each part. The thick stem of the Moringa oleifera is called A. What did they call it? What did they call the stem of this plant? They called it a trunk. So trunk is the woody stem of the Moringa. Moringa oleifera is regarded, we classify it as a tree, shrub, or herb. What do you think? This plant has a trunk. This means that this is a tree. Trees are plants with a large size and one woody stem that we call shrub, a trunk, sorry. Moringa is a non-flowering plant. Flowering plant isn't a green plant. So I will quickly cross this one because we can clearly see that this is a green plant, so this is wrong for sure. Is it a flowering plant or a non-flowering plant? Let's read this. Moringa oleifera is a fast-growing plant with perfumed flower. So this plant makes flowers, which means that this plant is a flowering plant. Okay, they said this in the text.